The year is 1963, a period of post-war economic recovery for the UK. The British public was going about its daily business, blissfully unaware that a group of criminals was meticulously planning one of the most infamous heists in history. The target? A Royal Mail train carrying cash from Scotland to London. The criminals involved? A gang of men with a cunning plan that would leave law enforcement stunned for months. This is the story of the Great Train Robbery. The crime began with careful planning. The Royal Mail train traveled from Glasgow to London every week, carrying cash and valuables, often worth millions. On August 8, 1963, this routine train journey would change forever. Bruce Reynolds, the man behind the operation, was no stranger to crime. A seasoned criminal, Reynolds had the sharp mind of a strategist. He carefully selected his crew, including both experienced criminals and lesser-known offenders, and set the stage for the perfect robbery. The target: the Midland and Scottish Railway, with a haul worth an estimated £2.6 million, a fortune in 1963, equivalent to about £50 million today. The gang was made up of 15 criminals, but key players included Bruce Reynolds, Buster Edwards, Ronnie Biggs, and James White, who worked as an inside man at a signal box. The gang studied the train's route and timings in meticulous detail, ensuring they would stop it at the right moment. The train typically left Glasgow around 9 p.m., traveling through the night before reaching London in the early morning hours. One of the most crucial components of the plan involved controlling the signals along the route. White, working as a signalman, would be the one to manipulate the signals, ensuring the train would stop in a remote location. The night of August 8, 1963, began like any other, but by midnight, the criminals were in position. The gang had set up their operation near Brightigo Railway Bridge in Buckinghamshire, a secluded spot on the train's route, which would give them enough time to stop the train and make their move. At approximately 3:15 a.m., the gang made their move. As the train neared the bridge, the signal was changed to danger, forcing the train to stop at a location far from prying eyes. The robbers, dressed as police officers, boarded the train and overpowered the unsuspecting crew. Using the element of surprise, the criminals quickly subdued the train's crew, taking them by force and locking them in the train's carriage. They gained access to the vault that carried the mail and money, bypassing the security measures with ease. With the crew neutralized, the gang proceeded to the train's high-security carriage, where the cash was stored. The criminals knew they had a narrow window of time to execute their plan. They worked in unison, using tools to break into the vault and quickly loading the $2.6 million into bags. The operation was swift, taking only 30. The gang had prepared several getaway vehicles, including large trucks which were stationed nearby. As the train crew remained locked in the carriage, the criminals loaded the loot onto the trucks and sped off into the night. The criminals scattered across the countryside, driving through remote roads to evade capture. Each gang member took a share of the money and went their separate ways. Some hid in safe houses, others traveled abroad, and a few remained in the UK to lie low. Despite their best efforts to split up, the gang was far from free. The police quickly launched an investigation, but the gang had left behind very few clues. They had managed to avoid direct confrontation with the authorities, and the haul remained undetected for months. The robbery made headlines across the UK, sending shockwaves through the country. The authorities were in a race against time to capture the criminals, but as the investigation progressed, it became clear that this was no ordinary robbery. This was a meticulously planned heist, involving insider knowledge and careful coordination. Detectives began piecing together the operation. They focused on the signalman, James White, whose involvement would ultimately lead to the capture of several gang members. White's betrayal of the rail company, which allowed the gang to control the signal system, was pivotal in executing the plan. As the months passed, police began closing in on the gang. One by one, key members were arrested. Buster Edwards, Ronnie Biggs, and others were apprehended, with many cooperating with the police to reduce their sentences. However, a few remained elusive. The most famous escape was that of Ronnie Biggs, who managed to flee from prison in 1965 and spent over 30 years as a fugitive in Brazil. His daring escape added to the lore of the Great Train Robbery, and his eventual capture in 2001 only increased the myth surrounding the heist. Though the majority of the gang members were caught, the Great Train Robbery remains a symbol of the perfect crime. It was an operation executed with military precision and audacity, leaving behind a lasting impact on British criminal history. Books, documentaries, and films continue to explore the story, keeping the memory of this remarkable heist alive. The Great Train Robbery changed the way authorities viewed heists. It wasn't just about the money, it was about the audacity and meticulous planning that went into pulling off such a monumental crime. The question remains, could a heist like this happen today? And more importantly, could anyone pull off another robbery of this scale and sophistication? Till the next one, subscribe to Crime Lore, and viewers stay safe and curious.